Good morning, everybody. Our intention today is to present a topic which covers a theme of different approaches in the chosen EU countries, such as Poland and Turkey. At first, I'm going to give a quick explanation what is an educational policy actually, but just to point out, our presentation will focus on how does it work in our countries and what are the main differences. But at first, educational policy is an important part of social policy and one of the principles in government's policy making, and it's taking place in educational sphere to create exact laws and rules for the education system of one country, such as Poland or Turkey. It occurs in many different forms through a lot of dependent institutions having a wide variety of purposes. One of the main purposes is to equalize the differences in students' levels of development. The examples of stages of education are early childhood education, kindergarten through to 12th grade, then colleges or universities, then we have graduate and professional education, adult education as well, and job trainings at the end of the educational chain. It is also vital to point out that such policy can affect people at all stages. The areas in which educational policy is having a significant role are school and class size, school infrastructure, possible investments, choices for students, privatization, tracking the results, teacher education and certification, payments, methods, graduation systems and values. Educational policy, simply speaking, seeks to answer the question about the purpose of education, its objectives, methods and tools to make it work effectively and in an appropriate way. I wouldn't say that there is anything significant and unusual about the Polish educational policy. It mostly covers the requirements mentioned before, but it has a specific approach towards spheres with socially marginalized students and their poverty. Polish government believes that efficient educational policy should not only equalize the differences beyond students, as I said before, but also to give a special opportunities for those mostly talented individuals, giving them more space to develop in the future. It also states that educational policy is a tool in passing the national cultural heritage on. That means knowledge, abilities, systems of values. Polish government considers schools as the key institutions for the economical and human development, which is creating the human capital. The right to education is being regulated by international laws taken out from the principles of human rights, as it's obvious, but the Polish Fundamental Regulations from 1991 also cover the acts on equalizing the educational chances, are all concluded in the Constitution of Poland. Recently, the educational system in Poland changed as a result of the formation of the new government with Law and Justice Party 3 years ago in 2015. Coming back, since 1999, gymnasiums were a basic stage in educational development, but in 2017, a new government introduced the regulations on eliminating that part in educational stages and prolonging at the same time the primary school's period for 2 more years and 1 more year of a high school. This is meant to be implemented permanently till 2019. To sum up, Polish educational system provides for 8 years of primary schools, then 4 years of high school, and these are the 2 stages which are obligatory. It is vital to mention that Polish education is for free and is accessible to every person since they are 7 years old age. Moreover, since the accession of the European Union in 2004, the many financings were created to evolve the educational levels of Polish students and to help them catch up their peers from the rest of European countries. And as we are at that point, I would like to give you a quick example of PISA. PISA research shows that over the last 20 years, Poland has become an Eastern leader in educational results, and its scores are now above the OECD average. and at the same levels as in countries such as Finland and Germany. So it's changed significantly in the last 25, 30 years. As we don't have much time in this movie and it's supposed to be just 6 minutes, I would like to give the speech to my colleagues, and now that's the part about Turkey. Thank you very much.
I would like to continue our presentation by talking about Turkish education. If we take a look at the Turkish educational structure first, we see that Turkey is highly centralized country, so its educational structure is also highly centralized. For example, the Ministry of National Education supervising and controlling each levels of education administration, such as controlling curriculum, such as controlling textbooks. The Council of Higher Education, which we call like YÖK, has a similar impact on universities. This council was supposed to be found to establish free environment in universities in 80s after the coup, but since then it's been using as a tool by any government, by any ruling party to shape educational system upon their wish. This is one of the key issues for the Turkish education policy, because according to constitution, the right to education, it opens for everyone, but since the foundation of republic, it's like Turkish education has been under influence of Ozturk, and even in the constitution it says the education shall follow the principles of Ozturk. So according to Turkish state, the multicultural dimension of society, it's national treasure rather than cultural differences. So the education should uniform all the citizens. In 2012, Turkish government decided to increase the number of compulsory years from 8 to 12 into 3 levels: primary, low secondary education, and upper secondary education. Even that had a big impact on enrollment to secondary education. At the end of the phase, there is a selective national examination, and with the 14 changes in last 16 years, system changes in education, the PISA scores of Turkey has been going down despite the big improvements that Turkey has achieved for last years. So the quality and the equity been remaining like the biggest challenge, and lack of support in regard to materials or lack of well-educated teachers are the biggest issues to overcome before Turkey's policy.
At the end of the day, as members of OECD, we see Poland and Turkey, by their constitutions, try to preserve their citizens' right to get equal and quality education. And even though they started with the same purpose, they end in a different note, where Poland actually manages to achieve their goals thanks to their funding by EU, which they got when they got their addition to European Union in 2004. They managed to tunnel that funds to their educational policy and get a better extensive educational policy. Whereas Turkey, who is not a member of the European Union yet, who is in a membership process, they didn't get this kind of fund or any other kinds of financing to manage better quality educational system. So what they did was what the Turkish state did was they tried to create this subsidy to channel students to go to private schools, and by privatization they tried to make up for the lack of quality and lack of extensiveness of their public education. So we see that both countries, and even though they started with the same purpose, they ended in a different note. But at the end of the day, again, we see that they actually made very similar structural differences, where they both changed their systems, whereas Poland eliminated their gymnasiums at the middle of the high school and primary school, and Turkey actually created this 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 system. And even though both are compulsory, and they were always compulsory even before that, we see that that can be confusing for the students, and this can cause some problems. But even with their structural differences, we see that for Poland this actually worked. Now, if we take PISA test as the criteria, Poland is even in the same level as countries such as Germany and Finland, who are famous for their quality education, whereas Turkey actually is at the bottom, with countries like Mexico, where it's the bottom of the OECD list. So actually we see that structural differences without funding did not actually work for Turkey, whereas Poland, even though they also changed their structural system, everything worked for them thanks to new funding and European Union financing.